People talk now about how wonderful Australian film industry is, especially the horror films. The past few years we've seen these big hits like Undead or Wolf Creek. What no one remembers is that in the 90s there was nothing here. No one was making horror movies except us. We were the ones who kept the genre alive. We were the ones who inspired the generation you see making it big time now in Hollywood.
We are the horror industry in this country. Well, it was a vision thing. I mean, people, you know, they use words like pornography, they use words like gratuitous ultra-violence, but for us, it was always a matter of art.
Don't think it was easy, though. We had to fight every step of the way. That first script, we sent it in to all the funding bodies, and you can't imagine the hostility. They said, you can't have a feature-length script with only 3 pages of dialogue. And I say, yeah, well, what about David Lynch's Eraserhead? And they said, you can't have a film with full frontal nudity in every single scene. And I said, yeah, well, what about Genesis in the Bible? Adam and Eve are naked for the first 2 reels. And they said, actors shouldn't have to work neck deep in raw sewage. And I said, Christ, no wonder the film industry is in crisis in this country.
In the end, though, it was better that we had to raise the money ourselves. Creative control. First thing was a director.
We wanted talent, you know.
Hell yes. Someone simpatico with what we were trying to do. Of course, there was only one choice.
Osbourne
Bagna.
Bagna.
This was just after he got sacked from the Melbourne Theatre Company. I mean, they were railroading this guy.
He was an innocent man.
Fuck off! All right, okay. What was I supposed to do? Okay? I couldn't get work. No one would give me fucking work. Actors Equity had blacklisted me, the cringing fuckers! Hey! So what was I supposed to do? Okay? Here's me, Osbourne fucking Bagna, not a cent to my fucking name. And these 2 young fellas come up and they say, we'll give you $500 to direct our film. I mean, it's only a 10-day shoot. So I thought, why the fuck not? Hey? I deny categorically here and now that it was ever supposed to be a snuff film.
You don't get a director of this caliber just because you get the big bucks. It takes an A1 script and the right production team.
Yeah, well, there were problems with the script from day one, let me fucking tell you. I mean, the boys all had very grandiose ideas, but any fucking idea about making films, no way. I mean, there was just no focus to the thing, it was just blood. Which is fine. I mean, even Shakespeare had blood. I mean, buckets of fucking shit. But Shakespeare always had a fucking reason.
He was our stamp of approval.
And once Osbourne was on board, getting actors was easy.
It's those film people I blame. They put something in her orange juice every day to make her do the things they wanted. Terrible, terrible, dirty things with no clothes on. She said it was all about art, but art doesn't use machines like that. I think it must have been LSD.
Orange juice? I don't know. Who remembers that far back?
What fucking orange juice? I don't remember seeing any orange juice on the fucking set. What, do you think there's somebody just out there fucking handing around orange juice, hey?
Johnny! No, not Charlotte, darling.
first films are like that, I suppose. You just don't have to live up to your own legend like you do with your later movies. Everyone was fresh.
We got a great deal on the location. The abattoir was closing down anyway, so all those animal parts and all that pig's blood, it was all free.
I saw a business opportunity and I decided to take it. And it's a chance for me to be part of the Bloodnight phenomenon. This is where they filmed the impaler scene. Okay. You've got this investigative journalist. She's played by Charlotte Mackenzie. Okay, now she breaks down up the road there. She comes running down the road. Okay. She's desperate for help and she arrives here at the abattoir. She comes inside and it's really hot. So she decides to take her clothes off. And then she hears it. The machine noise. Okay, over here. This roller door, you'd recognise that. The roller door goes up. And there she sees Bonefinger. And he's already riding the machine. Blood everywhere. He's really going for it. She gets turned on. I don't need to tell you what happens next.
And you can't rush that part. There is a beauty and science to editing.
So, after 6 intense days, we had a film. Hell, we didn't start it. I mean, we'd hired that hall fair and square. We didn't know that some of the damn Hibernians would show up and want to actually watch the film. I mean, as if we'd invite a bunch of retired Irish Catholics to see Bloodnight. Their wives too.
They see just one naked crucifixion scene and to hell with the plot subtleties. They all start yelling about blasphemy and out come the walking sticks.
The riot was a blessing in disguise. You can't buy publicity like that.
The only problem was that the cops seized the video and sent it to the censorship board, and we got banned under the erotic violence clause. It seems you're allowed to be erotic or violent, but not both. What kind of sense does that make?
I mean, banned. What does any of that shit mean? I mean, I can take you down to King's Cross right now and buy a copy from any sex shop you choose. Not that I'm saying we're in Sydney. It was bleak there for a while. I mean, we had the movie but nowhere to show it. We were selling it ourselves, of course, to anyone who asked, but my video player could only make one copy at a time. And even at one copy at a time, we must have moved 600 units.
At first it was odd that most of them were going to the same address. But then we learned about Norman.
May the Almighty protect and forgive all of us who have been born into the sinful ways of the mass-produced market of these horrible films.
Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Oh, Lord, kumbaya.
Take a look around. What do you see? I'll tell you what you see. You see crime, you see corruption, you see drug addicts, you see single mothers and pedophiles and sodomites. Which brings us to the Bloodnight films. These people. You know, I don't even think you can call them people. These filmmakers, they're deranged. And these films represent the very lowest that man can sink. So what I've done is I've bought every single copy of these films that's available on the internet or under the counter at pawn shops.
Norman's a good man. Without him, there would be no Bloodnight II and III. Think about it. The second one. Oh man, they had to beg me for weeks to do that. I mean, I had no interest. I'd already said it all in the first one, but When you got the producers on their knees in front of you, begging you, and the fans going, come on, Osbourne, there's no one else in the world capable of it. And you think, yeah, okay. Show us the script. I'll see if I can fix the cut.
Yeah, we thought about giving it one of those extra subtitles like Bloodnight II, Arterial Spray, or Bloodnight II, The Disemboweling.
But in the end, we decided we didn't need to be that cheesy. We stuck with a classic title and number. That's the type of filmmakers we are. We don't need gimmicks.
Our ambitions were very high.
I remember our first production meeting. I remember I said to Shaun, right up front, I said, let's have twice as many deaths as the first film.
26 deaths in a 75-minute film, that ain't easy.
That's a death every 3 minutes.
Woo!
And we weren't going to do that crap when you resurrect old characters somehow. It's just lazy. So it was a whole new cast, real A-list stars, some of them, like Dave, dozens of films behind him.
I mean, they have standards, you see, adult filmmakers. There's a level below which they won't sink. Audiences have certain expectations of decency too. I mean, they want fucking sure, but they don't want complete depravity. After people saw the things I had to do on Blood Night, well, it's made me untouchable for legitimate pornography. I'm not supposed to actually talk about Blood Night. That's my lawyer's instruction. Until the civil suit against the producers is settled.
Look, Bonefinger was a demanding role, but we had a long chat with Dave about the part, and he agreed that the constant nudity was essential to the motivation of the character. This is a guy who has no blood of his own, right? Like a vampire.
Only he's not a vampire.
He can't suck blood in through his fangs.
He has no fangs.
The only way he can get enough blood is by absorbing it through his skin.
So he has to be as naked as he can be.
And covered in as much blood as he can be.
All the time.
Otherwise, he can't get enough blood to survive.
Do you see the metaphor here?
The director really said to me, Dave, you are the human tampon. And, you know, I was covered in blood going in and out, in and out, in and out. At one point in time, I thought they were going to tie a string around my neck and just jerk me from one scene to the next. It was an interesting thing, Bonefinger.
Dave Hardwood, he's a professional, and I don't want to put him down, but you could see he was struggling. And he knew it too. So the things he said and done since the court case and everything, I think it's the reaction to the fact that he knows deep down that he wasn't quite up to the job.
You don't have to look very far to see good acting. You know, I've got the inches, but I've also got the fucking intellect. And if they're finding a lack of depth there, then, you know, fuck them.
Blood Night 2 was a hit. Sales to the family priority #1 party alone was about 5,000 units. And we had a worldwide following now. We sold at least another 2,000 to legitimate buyers.
People actually wanted to watch it, not burn it.
Fucking #3. I mean, fucking said it all in the first one. I mean, I don't really remember. Lights, camera action, tits, knives, pig's blood, cut. Of course, it was up to me to study the whole fucking ship again, of course. But do I get any thanks for that? No fucking way. All I get fucking hassles. You know, writers aren't happy. Actors aren't happy. People are being shot. It's your fucking fault, Osbourne. You're drunk again, Osbourne. Get out of your box, Osbourne. People are taking legal action. Fucking Osbourne. Fuck. And then these fucking weirdos just coming out of the woodwork. Fucking everywhere. Everywhere. Tell us about Blood Night, Osbourne. Was that a real human head, Osbourne? Was that a real human head, Osbourne? What was that? Was that a real human head?
Blood Night 3. It was intense. You know, on all the other Blood Night films, there were issues, we admit that. People would say to us things like,
"You've ruined my career."
Or, "You don't know the first thing about filmmaking."
There's no fucking cure for this disease.
But no one who worked with us on Blood Night 3 will talk to us now.
No one.
It was a really hard shoot.
It was crippling. We hadn't slept in days. We'd been living on a diet of amphetamines. Filmmaking is a dangerous occupation. Lives are on the line.
I don't know what the argument was about, but I found myself with the gun in my hand, and Andrew was just screaming at me and ranting at me, and his face was purple with rage, and I remember thinking, "You crazy Russian, I love you, man. You're my brother." But I had to pull the trigger.
At the time, Shaun's actions were universally condemned by the filmmaking fraternity. Well, by everyone, actually. But you know what? They weren't there. I must say I might have done the same thing. Creative differences. And you can't survive on one kidney. Contrary to what the articles said after the event, I never hated the guy. It was only the film I was worried about. How could I finish it without Shaun being around? Even so, we thought it wise to spend some time apart.
I made peace with myself during that time. I realised that people die in lots of different ways, and that shooting my best friend was not the worst thing he could do in the world. I mean, those days in Angola proved to me that I was a filmmaker first and a soldier of fortune second. So I put down the machine gun and came home.
It was no real surprise that Bloodnight III was probably the least successful of our films, especially artistically. Maybe it's the whole third film syndrome. I mean, look at The Return of the Jedi, those bloody Ewoks. Even family priority #1 party sales were starting to dry up. I hear poor old Norman is this close to bankruptcy. God bless him. So overall things were at a low ebb, and I had to wonder, was it the end of Bloodnight series? Shaun was in Angola and doing good things there, I heard, but there was nothing happening for me here. So I did what artists have done since time immemorial. I went back to Europe, but not to Russia. That would have been a defeat. I went to France. He and his friends had a little film appreciation society going on. Amazing. Almost none of them could speak English. And I didn't know our films were translated into Arabic. Anyway, Jafar thought it was a tragedy that Bloodnight might be over for good, and he wasn't going to stand for it.
We were watching Jafar Nahim. Standard surveillance. I won't go into details, but I will say that Nahim and his Marseille associates were looking to take it to the next level. They tried on numerous occasions to get their hands on a WMD, nuclear or biological. It didn't matter as long as it was big. But no luck. And then suddenly, here's this Andrew McGahan, this Australian-based Russian filmmaker, and before we know it, there's this minor, but not insignificant financial transaction taking place.
One day he brought out a suitcase full of money. And Christ, there was 50 grand US in that thing.
And I just got this phone call from France, and it was Andrew just yelling and ranting at me down the phone. And he was telling me that he'd secured funding for Bloodnight IV.
To be honest, I think where we went wrong with Bloodnight III was using Osbourne to direct.
Action.
He'd really given us all he could on 1 and 2. The man was burnt out. So with 4, it has to be just Shaun and me. All the way, complete control.
There's no more kidding around. No more games. The stakes are for real. That film is right.
Shooting that final scene when Bonefinger ascends and transfigures. Wow. Christ, and he's more than Christ. I was crying. It's a redemption for him, for us, for Bloodnight franchise, for filmmaking.
Then we heard a big bang.
Full-scale investigation to hunt down those folks.
Suddenly, federal agents are busting through the door, and that suitcase of money, it was gone. If we didn't go into hiding fast, we would have been gone too.
Nahim and the Marseille cell had nothing to do with the 9/11 attacks. Even so, as a precaution, they were apprehended. Turns out Nahim loathed the Bloodnight films, raved about them constantly before he died. To him, they were the most sick, degenerate things he'd ever seen. That was the point. Here was the WMD Nahim was looking for. He believed that if Bloodnight 4 was finished and released, then the series would be complete. The infidel evil would be total, and it would help bring about the total destruction of Western civilization. He was mad, of course.
Terrorist sympathisers. That's what they called us.
That's outrageous, as if we ever condoned violence.
But the real problem was, we hadn't actually paid for the film stock yet, or for the use of the editing suite. We'd paid for that on credit, and with the money gone, there was no way we could pay. The film company seized the lot and locked it away until we can redeem it. We've got nothing. Not even a rough edit.
But we have hope. Bloodnight will rise again.
We just need money.
September 11. What a tragedy for the world. I mean, there in some vault sits probably the finest film ever made. Something the world needs to see, and no one can. People are right when they say September 11 changed the world. It's like if our film never sees the light of day, then the terrorists really have won. Department of Immigration? Fuck you.
I just wake up with objects inside me where they shouldn't be.
You those fucking bedwetting masturbators at the academy recognise that?
That's where the cattle come through. They truck them through, bring them over into this building.
This is Rex. Hey.
It's not easy. Sometimes I've got one hand on the keyboard, the other on my cock.
I don't like these pyjamas. I wear the pink nightie they gave me.
I'm going to bite his testicles off and swallow them.